They're attacking the logic. Dad, Helena called back. I need to give the flowers something that can't be hacked. In the center of the garden, beneath the ancient oak, Helena knelt. She didn't use a computer. She used her voice. She began to sing the low, melodic vibration she had discovered as a child. It was a song of memory of Boniface's goggles, of Sam's tweed jacket, of Ruth's ink-stained fingers, and of the 500 years of peace that the stone had absorbed. As she sang, a miracle occurred. The indigo gold flowers began to pulse. Their bioluminescence didn't just glow. It projected a field of energy that short-circuited the sophisticated scanning drones hovering above the convent. The cyber attack hit a wall of pure, living intent. The servers stabilized. The firewalls held. The digital ghost of Ouroboros found itself staring into an eye it could not understand, the living eye of Providence. Chapter 25. The Foundation of the Soul. The following morning, Julian returned. He looked exactly as he had decades ago, as if the Cotswold mist had preserved him in amber. He found Helena in the lab, exhausted but triumphant. You've done more than protect the seeds, Helena, Julian said, his eyes filled with a new respect. You've proven that the heirloom isn't just botanical, it's human. The seeds are just the medium. The message is the resonance between the earth and the soul. Julian handed her a final artifact, a small, translucent stone found in the same Middle Eastern ruins where Elias and Helena had once stood. This is the anchor. It doesn't contain a code. It contains a vibration of absolute peace. Place it at the center of the north cloister. As Helena placed the anchor, the entire convent seemed to sigh. The stone heart was no longer just a metaphor. It was a radiant, transparent reality. The Institute would continue to heal the world, but it would do so on its own terms, guarded not just by police or scientists, but by the song of the guardians. Helena stood at the arched window, the same one where Sister Boniface had stood so many years ago. The mist was lifting, revealing the rolling hills of Great Slaughter. She saw her mother, Ruth, sitting in the courtyard, writing the final chapter of her memoirs. She saw her father, Sam, laughing with Felix. The foundations were not just safe, they were eternal. Chapter 26. The Resonance of Mercy. As the years flowed on, Helena Gillespie realized that the true power of the seeds was not in the individual cure, but in the environment they created. The golden pollen had fundamentally altered the ecology of Great Slaughter. The bees were stronger, the water clearer, and the people. The people seemed to find common ground more equally than ever before. However, a new challenge arose not from greed, but from desperation. A massive famine and plague had struck a neighboring continent, and the world looked to Great Slaughter for a miracle. The ethical dilemma was crushing. If the Institute released the unrefined synthesis, it could be corrupted. If they withheld it, millions would die. Helena sat in the library, the anchor stone glowing softly on her desk. She remembered Sister Boniface's words, "The truth only blooms when it is shared." She made the decision that would define her legacy. She wouldn't just send medicine, she would send the song. She broadcasted the resonant frequency of the Apostles' seeds globally, a digital vibration of peace that allowed researchers in every country to grow their own indigenous versions of the medicinal flowers. It was a final blow to the corporate sharks. The world now had an heirloom of humanity. Chapter 27. The Final Leaf. The autumn of Sam and Ruth's lives was a long, gentle sunset. They had lived to see Great Slaughter become a sanctuary for the world. One quiet evening, as the lavender scent was thick in the air, Sam sat on the porch and reached for Ruth's hand. "Do you remember the day you walked into the hall with that sharp London jacket, Ruth?" Sam asked, his voice a soft rasp. "I remember the way you gasped." "Sam Gillespie," Ruth replied, a ghost of that familiar mischief in her eyes. "You looked like a man who had seen a ghost, or a headline." "I saw my life," Sam whispered. That night, Sam and Ruth passed away peacefully in their sleep, their hands still intertwined. The village didn't mourn them with silence. They celebrated them with music. Their love had been the true catalyst for the redemption of Great Slaughter, a human resonance that had anchored the divine work of the sisters. Helena stood at their grave, flanked by Felix and the sisters. She didn't feel abandoned. She felt completed. Chapter 28. The Heart of the Valley. A new quincentennial approached. The convent of St. Vincent's had transformed. The stone walls were now interwoven with the golden indigo vines of the apostle plants, creating a living cathedral that hummed with the vibration of the anchor. Sister Boniface's laboratory remained preserved as a museum of mercy. Young novices from all over the world came to study the retorts and the goggles, but mostly, they came to learn the song. Helena, now an elder of the village, walked through the cloisters. She felt the presence of all who had come before: the legendary archaeologist Helena, the brilliant chemist Boniface, the brave earl who gave everything back to God, and her own parents. "The heart is no longer stone," Helena whispered to the wind. "The spirit of the valley is home." Chapter 29. The Memory of Water. Years after the passing of her parents, Helena felt a strange pull toward the convent's ancient well, hidden deep beneath the north cloister. It was a part of St. Vincent's that even Sister Boniface had left largely untouched. Helena, guided by a recurring dream of flowing silver, commissioned a safe descent. At the bottom of the well, far below the waterline, she found a submerged chamber. It wasn't an archaeological site, it was within, a single, glowing vial was encased in the same translucent stone as the anchor. This was Boniface's true faith. It wasn't a seed, but a liquid concentrate of pure intent, the baseline resonance of the original apostle flowers before they were exposed to the modern world. She knew, Helena realized, holding the cool vial, she knew the world would eventually create a noise so loud we would forget the song. This is the silence we need to hear. Helena integrated this silence into the Institute's global broadcast. It didn't change the medicine, but it changed the way people received it. It brought a moment of profound stillness to those in pain, allowing the body to heal not just from the drug, but from the restoration of the soul. Chapter 30. The Universal Pulse. The world was changing. The threats of corporate greed and digital sabotage had been replaced by a more existential crisis, a mental blight where humanity was losing its capacity for empathy. The Apostles' seeds, for all their biological wonder, were struggling to combat a sickness of the spirit. Helena, now in the twilight of her own career, called for a global resonant event. She asked everyone on the planet to simply stop for 1 minute at the same time and listen to the hum of the earth. As the minute began, Helena stood in the center of the living cathedral. She felt the pulse of the anchor, the silence from the well, and the collective heartbeat of billions. The indigo gold vines began to glow with a blinding white light. The apathy broke. It was like a dam burst. Across the globe, people were flooded with the memories of those they loved, the scent of their own great slaughters, and the realization that they were all part of the same stone. The miracle of St. Vincent's had finally gone universal. It was no longer a village mystery or a scientific discovery. It was the baseline of human existence. Chapter 31. The Last Alchemist. Helena spent her final days in the laboratory, tidying the test tubes one last time. She wasn't sad. She felt a profound sense of completion. She looked at the photograph of Sister Helena and Elias, the letters of Sam and Ruth, and the goggles of Boniface. She sat at the desk and wrote her final log entry. Chemistry is the language of the physical. Faith is the language of the spiritual. Resonance is the bridge. We have crossed the bridge. The lab is no longer necessary, for the world is now the sanctuary. She passed away, as the bells of St. Vincent's tolled her home. She was buried beside her parents, under a canopy of indigo gold petals that never seemed to fall. Chapter 32. The Age of the Living Cathedral. 100 years had passed since Helena Gillespie joined the ancestors. St. Vincent's was no longer a hidden jewel of the it had become the spiritual and scientific capital of a planet that had finally learned to breathe. The age of resonance was in full bloom. The apostle flowers had spread to every continent, adapted by the global broadcast of the song. But as humanity grew accustomed to peace, a new kind of forgetting began to settle in. The younger generations began to treat the miracle as a utility, a given, like gravity, or the air they breathed. In the year 600 of St. Vincent, a young archivist named Clara was tasked with organizing the founder's vault. Clara was a dreamer, often found staring at the ancient, scratched goggles that once belonged to the legendary sister, but they're just artifacts. Clara, her mentor, an elderly scholar, would say, the real power is in the global resonance network. We don't need the old retorts and glass tubes anymore. But Clara felt a discordant note in the air. The global hum, once a pure and vibrant melody, was starting to sound thin, mechanical. It was as if the pure intent Helena had found in the well was being diluted by the sheer noise of a busy, efficient world. Chapter 33. The Whispering Stones. The crisis began when the anchor stone in the north cloister stopped glowing. It didn't flicker or fade. It simply turned cold, a silent lump of translucent rock. Within hours,